Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. I was in my room one day when I decided I wanted a drink. I got up from where I was sitting and tried to walk toward the door, but I tripped over a shoe. I reached out with my hand to stop myself from falling and grabbed one of the decorative knobs on the side of the fireplace. As I grabbed it, it kind of moved to the side. I got up, and when I did, I saw a big crack on the side of the fireplace. I thought, oh no, I've broken the fireplace. I walked over to it and tried to put it back where it belonged. Then I saw that it was still working. It looked like the whole stove was on hinges. It was kind of like a door. I stuck my fingers in the space and pulled. It was very hard to move, but after pushing really hard, the crack got bigger, and then the whole fireplace opened with a creak. Small pieces of soot fell to the floor, and the air smelled kind of musty. It seemed like no one had opened it in years. I looked inside and saw a small room in the dim light. I got my flashlight and went to check it out, thinking there might be loot there. I was a little let down because it was empty. The room was rough brick and about 6 feet square. The room was empty with no windows or chairs. Maybe it was one of those old hiding places I've read about in history books. I went back outside and tried to close the hidden door. It creaked as it closed. The door was closed when the fancy knob on the fireplace turned and clicked. I moved the knob again to the side and heard a click. The secret door opened again. This was wonderful. I could now hide all of my girly things. I didn't waste any time getting the clothes for my girls out from under my bed. I put them all in the secret room where nosy people couldn't see them. We moved in quickly, and my parents showed me around a few schools right away to help me decide which one would be best for me. I didn't like any of the places, to be honest. They were big, loud places where teens were always yelling at each other. All of the boys, and, to be honest, a lot of the girls looked bigger and stronger than me. We couldn't decide which one, so Mom and Dad took me to a nearby restaurant for dinner that night so we could talk about which school I should go to. We picked the one with only 500 students in the end. Boys and girls made up about half of the group, and it was the best of a bad bunch. We ate our food and then left the place. We ran to the car, getting wet in the process, because it started to rain hard. It was very dark, and rain was hitting the windshield hard. It was hard for Dad to see where he was going. Anyway, this is where things start to get a little strange. I know we were about 5 minutes from home because I recognized a farm sign as we passed it, and then everything went crazy. From the front of the car, there was a loud bang and a bright light and then nothing. I had a really weird dream. I thought I was in a car, and there was an odd smell. I looked down and saw that I was wearing clothes made for boys. I was a girl, and that wasn't right. Also, the clothes smelled awful. I took off the boys' smelly clothes. As I did this, I saw that Mom and Dad were sleeping in the front seat. We probably stopped to take a break or something. Also, I had to go to the bathroom. I got out of the car because it wasn't going to rain. I thought, that's strange. It's parked at an odd angle. I didn't think about it again as I went behind a tree to use the bathroom. Then, there was a loud blast. My mom and dad were in the car when it blew up. The dream had changed into a nightmare, and then all of a sudden, there was another huge explosion that knocked me off my feet, and I couldn't remember anything else. I got out of bed. What an awful dream. I was shaking and smelled awful. I could smell the gasoline. What was happening? I put on my robe and called out for my parents. Mom and Dad, ow, my head hurts. When I touched the back of my head, I felt a lump. I must have hit my head without realizing it. Mom, Dad, where are you? My head hurts. I went to find out where they were. It was very quiet in the house. That was strange because Mom and Dad usually got up early. When I went into their room, the bed was already made. Okay, so they are awake. No one was in the kitchen when I went downstairs. I looked all over the house, but it was empty. Where were Mother and Father? I had a terrible headache, and I wanted something to help. Where were Mother and Father? I was getting angrier and angrier. I had a strange feeling like I wasn't really there. I went back up to my room and fell asleep under the covers because I was so cold and my head hurt so much. I felt a little better when I woke up again, but it was dark. My room was dark, so I must have been sleeping all day. Maybe my parents let me sleep in, so I'd feel better. Even so, it's funny that the door was open and there were no lights outside. It was very quiet in the house. I stood up and walked into the hallway. "Mom, Dad, I'm now awake!" The sound reverberated through the empty house. I knew I was alone in this big, empty place even before I looked around. I turned on the light in the hallway and then turned on lights as I went downstairs. It was creepy how quiet the house was. I went into the kitchen and turned on the light. I closed the back door because it was open. That's funny. I wonder why it was open. I looked in the fridge to see if there was anything to eat or drink. I found some milk and a piece of chocolate cake, which I ate while sitting in the living room. I was worried about my mom and where she was. I thought that maybe they had gone out to eat or do something else and had forgotten to wake me up to tell me. When I think about it now, it was a silly thing to think, but my mind had gone blank and I was probably in shock. I turned on the TV by pressing the button on the TV remote, which was on the side of the armchair I was sat in. The set came to life with ads for something like baked beans. The news from my area came on the next minute. This is the news. The reports said that the Surrey Council was going to raise taxes for the next fiscal year. Last night, someone was robbed in Saunton. Police are looking for a local man. But first, we'll talk about the car accident that killed one person last night near the pretty town of Heversham. Last night, a couple and their son were killed when their car crashed into a tree while they were driving in heavy rain. The car blew up. They were Sheila and Andrew Peters, along with their son David. They had just moved into the area and didn't have any close family nearby. And now we'll talk about what Surrey Council plans to do. My glass of milk fell out of my hands, and I heard screams. As soon as the lights went out, I realized I was the one yelling. I didn't know what happened until I woke up on the floor. I had been sick, and the mess was all over my dressing gown. I didn't know much about what was happening around me. I was looking inside myself and wondering why I didn't die with my mom and dad. I needed them, and I also wanted them. I would never again hear my mom laugh or feel my dad's strong arms around me. They had died, but I was still alive. Why? I could feel the tears running down my cheeks. Then I started crying. I cried tears of sadness, loss, and anger that this had to happen to our happy little family. I don't know how long I was like this, but by the time my tears stopped falling, it was getting light outside. Inside, I felt empty. I had to go through the pain of losing both of my parents in a terrible accident. In a moment, my whole life had changed, and I was now living on my own. I went upstairs, into the bathroom, and took off my dressing gown. I looked in the mirror and saw cuts and bruises on my skinny, scrawny body. The dried blood on my legs and the fact that I was black and blue showed that I was lucky to be alive. Lucky that was funny, but I didn't want to laugh at the time. I got in the shower and washed off the blood, muck, and other things that reminded me of what I had been through. As I washed myself, I wondered why I felt so weird inside. Like my parents and I had all died at once. They were the center of my life. I already missed my dad's ready smile, his kindness, and the way it was clear that he loved me. When I needed him, he was always there, but now he won't be. I missed my mom's love, hugs, and sweetness. I got along with my mother as well as anyone could. She was my strength and my guide. Oh, I miss them both so much. When I realized that the water was getting cold, I started to shake. I got out of the shower and quickly dried off. I went to my room and put on my bathrobe. In the kitchen, I put cornflakes and milk in a bowl and ate them while I tried to figure out what was going on in my head. It made sense to go to the police office and tell them what had happened. I thought back to a TV show. My mom watched it with me, and I could remember what she said about it. "It's a good thing you don't have to live there, honey. I'm sure that not all shelters are the same, but I've heard lately about some really bad ones. What a terrible way to start out in life." I didn't want to be locked up with kids I didn't know. I was afraid of being hurt in some way, whatever that meant. I washed the things I used for breakfast and went back to my room. I lay down on my bed and thought about what I could do to keep from going to a home. I could run away to the circus and become a clown, or at least work with the horses or something. No, that's a stupid idea. How would I find a circus? They'd send me back and put me in a home. I could sneak onto a ship and then become a ship's boy. No, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I get seasick, and they'd send me back and put me in a home. I couldn't run away because someone would give me to the police if I did. I got to my feet and went to the window. I looked down at the beautiful garden and the little stream at the end of the garden, which was just out of sight. I liked it a lot. I really liked the house and the yard. Life would be great if only Mom and Dad were here. I heard a car driving down the driveway. I got scared all of a sudden and didn't want to be found. Not right now, and not until I knew what I should do. Where could I sneak away? I looked all over my room in a crazy way. There's no room under the bed. They might look in the closet, but not there. I took a quick look at the fireplace, then quickly opened the secret door and shut it behind me. I was sitting in the dark with only a small crack of light around me from where the door hadn't shut all the way. I could just barely hear the front door open and then close. I could hear people downstairs, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. I thought I heard a woman and a man, but I wasn't sure. After about 10 minutes, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, and as they went from room to room, I could start to make out what they were saying. "This is a nice place, Donald," Denise said. "How terrible that the accident happened. I heard that all they found of the child was a shoe and a few pieces of clothing. No, the neighbors don't know much about them. He worked in town. I think the boy was about to start school and she was a teacher." They came into my room. Denise said, "This must be the room for the little boys." "It seems that way. From here you can see the yard and stream. What will happen to this place? If there are no family members, everything will go to the state. But that will take a long time, since these things move very slowly. In the meantime, it's our job to make sure it stays in decent shape." "How does it work, Donald? I'm new to this." "We make sure everything is safe. The real estate agents were lucky that they still had a set of keys. We'll leave everything on, like the water and electricity. That will make sure the house doesn't get too cold and the pipes don't freeze. You or I will have to check on it once a month or so, and if nothing seems wrong, we'll ask the cops to keep an eye on it. It has an alarm system, and I have the number for the alarm company, so it should stay safe." "What's the number?" 2904, but the office has a record of the information. Anyway, we should probably leave now because I have a meeting at the office in an hour. I heard voices getting quieter in the distance and the front door closing. I slowly got out of where I was hiding and went to the window. The car went away into the distance. I went downstairs slowly and thought about what those two people had said. Everyone thought I was dead after the accident. I won't be looked for by anyone. The house won't be lived in for months or even years. I got to the kitchen and got a Coke from the fridge. Then I went to the living room and sat on my favorite soft couch. I kept thinking about everything that had happened to me. Moving to this new house, having to say goodbye to Sarah, and feeling my heart break when my parents died. I kept thinking about how I was alone at home with no one to take care of me. I didn't want to go to a home or live with foster parents who might not care for me as well as my parents did. When I was done drinking, I went back up to my room. I should probably get dressed. I went to my closet and opened the door to it. I was scared when I saw all my boy stuff. I no longer wanted to pretend. I wanted to dress like a girl should. I went over to the fireplace, opened the secret door, and took the sports bag out of its hidden place without giving it another thought. I put on a pair of yellow pants, my yellow sundress, lacy ankle socks, and Mary Jane shoes in almost no time. I looked at my hair, which was still pretty long, and brushed it into a more girly style with a middle part. I went to use the toilet. It had a long mirror that went from floor to ceiling, so I took a look at myself. It was clear. No one who looked at me could think anything else. I was a girl inside and out. I had an idea as I looked at Katie in the mirror. It was a great plan. It was a good plan. I was going to stay here, in the place I loved, surrounded by things that made me think of my parents. I'd take care of myself. David was dead, so I didn't need to hide who I was. Katie was still alive, and I had some money saved up. Yes, I made up my mind that Katie would live alone at home. But can I get away with it? I was drenched in sweat. It was a terrible dream. I was in a car that had crashed and was on fire, the car my parents drive. I had no way out. The smell of gasoline was strong. I screamed when I suddenly woke up. I didn't know where I was for a moment. Then I thought about it. I looked at my own face. I had thrown off my bedclothes and was only in my nightgown, which was damp and cold. I shakily got up and went to the window. The sun was just coming up over the horizon, so it was light outside. Last night, I forgot to pull the shades across. It all came back in a rush. My mom and dad died in that horrible crash that was like a nightmare. I was all by myself and had no one to talk to. I got tears in my eyes as I thought about those terrible times when I lost people I loved. I looked out the window again, and I thought I saw my mom and dad smiling and waving to me in the mirror of the glass. I might have made it up, but I thought I heard my mom say, "Stand tall, honey. We love you always." That made me feel a little better. I was sure that my parents were watching out for me on the other side. They wouldn't want me to stop fighting. Then I thought about the promise I made to myself yesterday when those people came into the house. I would try to take care of myself and keep living. I went into the bathroom and took a shower. I used my mom's nice-smelling pink stuff, and when I dried off, my skin felt like silk. My hair was a little long, and it took a long time to dry. In the end, I used my mom's brush to get the knots out of it. Since I was now going to look and feel like a girl, I spent a long time in front of the mirror, changing the way my hair was parted to the left and to the right. I picked in the middle in the end. Compared to how I had to wear it before, it looked pretty and girly. I told myself I would find the courage to go to a hair salon and get my hair cut in a better way. I went back to my room and chose some pants, white socks, a frill at the bottom, and a pink dress with shoulder straps. I was glad the weather wasn't too cold yet, so I could keep wearing my summer clothes. I was dressed in a flash. I went to the mirror and looked at myself closely. I didn't look much like David, that's for sure. I looked like a girl. As I looked in the mirror, I frowned. I went into Mom and Dad's room and saw all of Mom's makeup on her dresser. When I played with Sarah, I had used makeup before, so I wasn't a total idiot at it. But this was different. I found the things I needed and thought might look good and, more importantly, make me look older. I looked at myself in the mirror and began with the base. I used a makeup brush that my mom gave me to put on foundation. When I was done, I saw that it didn't look very good. Then I thought back to what Sarah had said. Her mother had told her that faces shouldn't have too much makeup on them. More is worse than less. I used a wet wipe to remove the foundation and started over, this time using much less foundation. It worked out much better. I then put a small amount of blusher on my cheeks and carefully blended it over the area to make it look natural. Next, I did my eyes. I was pretty good at eyes, so it didn't take long before I had nice pink eyelids, and after a few tries, the mascara looked great. My eyes seemed bigger and more feminine. I didn't try to use the eyeliner because I thought I wouldn't be very good at it. My hands were shaky for some reason, maybe next time. My eyebrows were thin and had a good shape when I was born. I had no desire to touch them. I found a pink gloss and used it to carefully outline my lips. The color was pretty and it went well with my eyes and the nail paint I was going to put on later. I had found some stuff for tanning. I'd seen my mom use them before and they gave her face a tan and a healthy look. She used a big brush I could remember. I moved the brush over and picked up a good amount of powder on it. I closed my eyes and carefully moved the brush over my face, making sure to be very light, and I was especially careful around my lips. There I was done except for my nails. I had been so focused on getting my makeup right that I hadn't really taken in what I looked like. I took a step back from the mirror and looked at myself closely. I saw a beautiful girl in the mirror. Even though I knew I was a girl on the inside, I really looked like one now. Another trouble was that I didn't have any winter clothes. When winter came, I needed clothes that wouldn't make me stand out like a sore thumb. I went downstairs and ate some cornflakes in the kitchen. As soon as I opened the fridge door and saw the milk and other perishables, I knew I also needed to go grocery shopping. The milk was still good, but in a few days it wouldn't be. As I ate my breakfast, I took out a piece of paper and made a list of things I needed to buy, just like my mom would. I wasn't sure what I really wanted, so I couldn't be more specific. The food things came next. I needed things like milk, eggs, butter, and the like. I had a lot of food in the freezer because I just went shopping with my mom last week. This made me sad and a little teary because it reminded me of the fun time we had shopping and then going to McDonald's, which was more important and a must. Enough of this, Katie, I sniffed to myself as I carefully wiped my eyes with a tissue. My parents wouldn't want me to be someone who always cries. I ate my breakfast and then washed the plate and spoon. The big problem now was money. In my cash card savings account, I had about £200 saved up, but it was in the name of David. I could try going to an ATM and taking it out. I would try that, yes. The PIN number was 2904, which was my birthday. Unfortunately, £200 wouldn't get me very far, so I had to look around the house to see if there was any more money. I looked everywhere for money, and finally I hit the jackpot. Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon if you want to have early access to the other parts. If not, it will be online in a couple of days.